I turned all that down to solve dyslexia. I said, never again. So I went to my professors and I said, where can I go to force myself in grad school to learn to read and write? Beating me up sideways, every which way to make sure this was real. At the end, she concluded, like I've noticed before, he has a first grade reading and writing level, like a 6-year-old. But when he turns the system on, he's reading and writing at above average graduate level. And then it goes back down again.
The Arts Council for Monterey County is here to invest in your creative future. If you're a student, your journey is just beginning. Apply now for college arts scholarships or raise your voice as the next Youth Poet Laureate. Honing your craft? The Arts Council for Monterey County offers individual artist grants and free BusinessWorks professional development workshops. From finding inspiration to building a career, the Arts Council for Monterey County is your creative partner. Learn more at arts4mc.org. That's arts4mc.org.
All right, welcome back to Offline Expression. I am your host, Jeff Hinderscheid, and we are back. And once again, we have an incredible guest with us today, Russell Van Brocklin. How'd I do with the name, Russell?
You got it right.
Boom. I love that. Welcome to the show, man. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really excited. I know that we have been playing a game called Let's See If We Can Actually Make This Work for I don't even know how many weeks now. And I just want to first and foremost thank you for your grace and your patience with us as we get everything in order. And then even today had an audio laptop issue, and we just decided, you know what? We're resilient. We're going to persevere. And here we are. So thank you for all of that, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Hey, this is my 217th podcast since last April. And I can tell you the technical difficulties can be, well, they're fun.
Right. They're called difficulties for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, the irony with our show specifically is the fact that everyone on the planet is dealing with these digital issues kind of all the time now, you know? And so before, if it didn't work out, you would meet people in person, but your small circle of people would be, you know, geographically, you can only do so much. So the other side, the good side of it is we can talk from a distance. We can get a lot of these kind of things done. You could do 217 podcasts in a year, regardless of your location. So, hey, you know what? We roll with the punches around here, and it sounds like you're used to doing the same.
I'm very used to it. As a dyslexic, I am married to the digital life.
Okay. You know what? That's a perfect segue, my friend. Let's go for it. Let's dive right in, because you and I have had a couple little conversations here and there along the way, and I've been really looking forward to having this discussion with you. So before we go any further, I'm just going to ask you, where are you physically located right now?
Right outside of Albany, New York, about 150 miles north of New York City.
Okay. Let's see. We're in March, so it's starting to maybe heat up a little bit, or no?
I literally live on a lake, and we had 370-degree days, and it's half melted. So when that melts, to me, that's springtime.
I love it. You actually get the seasons. I love that. I'm not allowed to complain here in California because we have pretty great weather most of the year round. But I do want to get over there sometime to see the transitional seasons, which is not something we're as used to here where I'm at. So, well, welcome in from the East Coast, my brother. Good to see you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so now, please tell our listeners and our viewers who you are, what you do, and what brought you to it.
Well, my name's Russell Van Brocklin. I'm a dyslexia researcher, and this was the exact opposite last thing that I was supposed to do with my life. I was supposed to be a bureaucrat for the New York State government, but ran into a bit of a hitch on the way. It was the late 90s. I was finishing up college, and I wanted to know how laws were created, not some class I wanted to know. So I did this absolutely outrageous thing, and I applied for the New York State Assembly internship program. And people would ask me, what's so outrageous about that? You're near your end of college. It's the time to do an internship like that. I said, well, I showed up after I was accepted, and I said, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing ability. And yeah, the director kind of flipped because I couldn't do the internship the way it was designed, because how it worked back then is you had the assembly member, then you had the chief of staff, who was probably an intern a year or two before, and then you had the intern. I was supposed to answer phone, take notes, write up memos, file things. Yeah, I couldn't do any of that. So he goes up to the speaker's office. They say, you're not getting rid of this kid because he's dyslexic. Figure it out. So they got a committee together of their senior people, and they came up with a rather radical solution. They physically pulled me out of the legislative office building and moved me over to the Capitol, because a big part of the internship was being with your peers. I had none of that. I walk in, and the program and counsel's office ran the assembly day to day, and I immediately see why they did it. There were 3 administrative assistants who could help with my cruddy writing, but they had no idea what to do with an undergrad. So they treated me like a grad student, which is a real internship, a real staff position. So that went great. And then for the academic portion, I ended up doing a major hours-long Q&A session and presentation instead of the big paper. So they wrap everything up, 15 credits of A- that they recommended. It goes back to our flagship campus, the State University of New York Center at Buffalo, to the political science department. And they look at these outrageous accommodations and say, we don't like those accommodations. So we're lowering your grade from 15 credits of A-. Guess what they lowered it to?
I can't even imagine.
They flunked me.
What?
15?
That's not lowering. That's abolishing.
15 credits of F. And 29 years later, it's still there. The only time this ever happened. So,
wow.
Yeah. At that point, just remember where I was coming from. I spent nights and weekends, my choice, I wasn't asked, working with the people that ran the assembly day to day. I was offered to be a lobbyist. There are state positions I was offered because I got high recommendations from people that ran the place. I turned all that down to solve dyslexia. I said, never again. So I went to my professors and I said, where can I go to force myself in grad school to learn to read and write? And they said, well, if you like politics, it's obvious. Law school. So I went and I audited 2 law classes with the inability to read or write, where you read and write more than anybody. So I walk in, I forced myself to learn to read a little bit. It was my second day of contracts, and the professor called on me. Now, what they do in law school is they use the Socratic method. If you don't know the answer, which nobody does the first week, they will keep asking. Yeah, they'll just keep asking you questions to embarrass you publicly until you eventually adapt.
Ah, yes.
That didn't happen to me.
Add a little shame, right? Yeah, just add some shame to the top.
Right. Oh, no, they destroy kids. Didn't happen to me, though. I didn't respond as a student. I responded as the professor's equal. Now, understand that. We were arguing back and forth as hard as we could. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. At the end, he threw up his arms, said, Russell, I can't, you couldn't be any more correct. I have to move on to the next case in the interest of time. I learned to read within a month. I learned to write within a couple of years. Then I go back to the New York State Senate, and I said, I want you to fund my dyslexia research program, which they don't do, but they sent me over to the education department, and they said, well, see what you can do with them. They said, we want a SUNY distinguished professor in psychology to evaluate this. They said, where's it out of? I said, Buffalo. Well, go get one of them and evaluate it, or you're done. So I go out there, I said, this can't be that hard. There's 2. One just happened to be the one that gave me the evaluation before I went to the assembly. 20 hours over 3 days of the smartest woman I ever met, Dr. Holichka, beating me up sideways every which way to make sure this was real. At the end, she concluded, like I've noticed before, he has a first grade reading and writing level, like a 6-year-old. But when he turns the system on, he's reading and writing at above average graduate level. And then it goes back down again. And she wrote up 5 pages explaining this. Well, now the education department has a problem because it's endorsed that we should keep going by the person they wanted. So then they said, oh, you got to hook this up to current research. So then I went to Professor James Collins. He was the only one that this made sense with. He had a $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Education Department, and I had to extend his work from mild dyslexia to severe dyslexia. People said that would take years, if not, if ever. He's impossible. I did in less than 2 weeks. Okay. Notice that I'm doing really well in grad school. That's a big part of what the theme's going to be. So then he put A+, excellent. I got $15,000 in a university-wide competition. We tried out the process on a couple of students. The first student, her name was Michaela. Please note, I wanted to see what I could do with students like me. These were highly intelligent students with massive motivations, high school juniors and seniors. They were all writing at the middle school level. Michaela went from the middle school writing level to average of entering graduate students based on the graduate records exam writing assessment. So
Wow.
we did that with another student, and then the Senate finally said, we'll fund you for a couple of years. Money went to the Averill Park Central School District right outside of Albany, New York, where I went to high school, and then 1 class period a day for the school year. All the kids went from middle school writing to average range of entering graduate students. They all graduated from college, GPA 2.5 to 3.6. Cost New York State taxpayers less than $900 as kid. Compared to Landmark College, was a transfer college at the time, the best dyslexic college. We were 3x as successful for less than 1% of the cost, and that's how I got started.
Wow. There's so much meat on that bone. Well, first of all, congratulations. I mean, we talk a lot about resilience on this show. We talk a lot about the power of rejection being a conduit for change, or sometimes the motivating factor. It's not always. Sometimes people could be really downtrodden and beaten down, but when it acts as an ignition point, especially when you're already up against the wall, you're already facing so much adversity, because you have this thing that's causing you frustration, and it's already separating you from everyone else, and then to go above and beyond and just not let no be the answer, it's really remarkable, man. Good for you. And it sounds like you helped a lot of people along the way.
Well, that was the starting point. Now, I understand you work in education?
Yes, I do. Like you, I've had some challenges due to my own way of thinking, and I've been kind of fortunate to have good parents and people involved that have seen the highs be really good and successful and special, even when the lows are causing issues. So I've worked in every sort of level of education. I work with kids in elementary school, middle school, high school, and college. So I basically work at every age group and at every school level right now. So, but I'm not a teacher. I'm not credentialed. I am a college professor because of my master's degree in psychology.
Okay.
A whole other bag of worms. But yes, I do work in education, just not in the inner circle of the administrative law and all that kind of stuff of the teacher world.
Right. But you're a professor. So let's just first of all strike out on deal with the elementary school and then with the advanced students and how we can just fix this. So just so you know what dyslexia is, this is the top book in the field of dyslexia. It's called Overcoming Dyslexia. This is the second edition by Professor Shaywitz from Yale, and medical doctor. That's dyslexia. So do you see how the back part of a typical brain has this massive neural activity, but the dyslexic has like next to nothing?
Yes.
Now, do you see how the front part of the dyslexic brain is about 2.5 times overactive?
Yes.
Okay. So what we need to do is really simple. We need to take things from the back part of the brain that doesn't work to the front part where we have 2.5 times the neural activity. All right. Now,
Yes.
according to Yale, this is word analysis followed by articulation in the front part of the brain. So the biggest issue I have when parents contact me, it's in elementary school. The kid's writing a bunch of apparently randomly placed misspelled words. Nobody knows how to fix it. Okay. So do you, in your educational experience, do you remember a specific dyslexic elementary or middle school kid who was writing a bunch of apparently randomly placed misspelled words?
Yes.
Okay. We need to change the name of that student to protect their identity. What's the student's made-up name?
Mitchell.
Mitchell. Now, what is Mitchell's speciality? What's his area of extreme interest and ability?
Music.
Music. What if I told you in the next 10 minutes I'll show you how to solve this completely?
I would love that.
Okay. So what we're going to do is, remember, it's word analysis followed by articulation. So what we're going to do is you're going to, assuming you were with Mitchell, you're going to pull out a laptop computer with a real keyboard, not an iPad, not an iPhone, and certainly not handwriting. And you're going to type out hero +, what are we talking about? And then Mitchell's going to copy that. All right. People are screaming now, but kids aren't allowed to copy. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, Default Writing Strategy of Copying. It's okay. All right. He's going to copy that until he gets it correct. Then what we're going to do is we're going to swap out hero for Mitchell's name. So we got Mitchell +, what are we talking about? Then we're going to go to a list of 10 things that Mitchell really, really likes, and then 10 things he really, really dislikes. And the first thing that he really, really likes is music. So we got Mitchell +, what are we talking about? We're going to swap out what are we talking about for music. So we got Mitchell + music. See how we got there?
Yep.
Okay. Now I'm going to try to fool you with two of the simplest questions you will ever be asked. If you answer them exactly, this will work. If you don't, you will get very confused, and then you'll have an epiphany on what dyslexia really is. And this is very much a simple trick of trying to fool you with psychology. So do you think I can fool you with two of the simplest questions ever?
Well, I think that you've been doing this long enough, and I'm humble enough to think that, yeah, I think you probably can, but I also am rising to this challenge quickly.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. Just remember, you have to answer my questions exactly for this to work.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, you will get very confused. Here we go. We got Mitchell + music. We need to swap out the + for a word. Here's my question. Does Mitchell like or dislike music?
Like.
Exactly. You've done better than 80% of the people out there. Now for the really hard question. Are you ready?
Yes.
I need you to replace the + with that word and give me the 3-word sentence.
Mitchell likes music.
But that's not what I asked. Let's try it again. Wait. Does Mitchell like or dislike music? You said like, which is correct. Now I need you to go ahead and replace the + with that word. What's the 3-word sentence?
Mitchell like music?
Exactly. What did you do the first time? Did you see what
pluralized
happened?
It.
Yes, because what happened, just so everybody knows, because you're very educated. All right, so let's go and look at what happened. This is, in a typical brain, everything would be processed back here. All right? Mitchell has nothing going on back here. This is where it's supposed to happen. So what educated people do is they'll take like, and when they put it into a sentence, you've been conditioned and trained for over a decade to make it a proper sentence, so you add the S. Mitchell has nothing going on in the back part of the brain. He doesn't know how to add the S.
Got it.
This is not some simple problem. There are the Windward School on the Upper East Side of Manhattan takes students like Mitchell in, let's say, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, works with him for 4 to 5 years at $75,000 a year with a 98% success rate with a student-to-teacher ratio of 4:1 or 5:1. And then they sent him back to where he came from as the most educated kid he could possibly be from any of the best private schools on the planet. Most of us don't have an extra $400,000 or $500,000 sitting around. So here's how we fix that using modern neuroscience. We're going to use word analysis. So we asked Mitchell, read what you wrote out loud, because he would have said like, would be Mitchell like music. So he would read Mitchell like music. Here's how we fix it. I would say, Mitchell, does that sound generally correct? He's going to say no. And I'm going to say, Mitchell, fix it. Mitchell likes music. We practice that with 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Okay? Then he's got it down. Now, do you see how that's a simple form of word analysis?
Yeah, that's a good formula. It breaks it down really like easy to understand and teach, I guess, but also it doesn't make anybody feel inferior. It just explains, do this, do that, do this, do that. Now do this, now do that. Does it sound right? No. What does it sound right if you do it? Boom. And he's like, oh, I'm totally capable of doing that.
Exactly. Now, let's go because reason one. Give me a simple reason why Mitchell likes music.
He doesn't have to read it. He doesn't have to write it. He can just hear it. Listening to it makes him happy.
Mitchell likes music because it makes him happy. Now, do you see we have a whole mess of misspelled words? Here's how we fix that. First of all, is when you're working with elementary school kids. Do you remember when you got these randomly placed misspelled words you didn't even know how to get started?
Yes.
Okay. Here's how we extend what we just did to fix that. We tell Mitchell, forget about spelling, read what you wrote out loud. Does it sound generally correct? Keep doing it until it sounds generally correct. Now we got those horrendous grammar mistakes are gone. A lot of the medium issues are now correct. You're going to have some medium stuff and maybe a bunch of little stuff. Teachers know how to fix little stuff and medium stuff.
Right.
So we just now made it workable. Now with the spelling, this is not hard to do. We just tell Mitchell, put a period down. Every time you misspell a word, you have to retype the entire sentence until it's correct. So he's going to say, I'm not going to make that mistake. And he keeps making it about 3 to 13 times. Each time he concentrates harder and harder. And that's where the magic happens. That's where he finally gets it right eventually. Then we do that for 10 likes and 10 dislikes for reason one. Then reason one and reason two, 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Then reason one, reason two, and reason three, 10 likes and 10 dislikes. At the end of that, Mitchell is now writing decent grammar, correct spelling, 3 reason sentences. And here's the other little thing. If you can write it, you can read it. If you can write it, you can read it. Okay? So his reading is also improving. All right? Now, that is step 3 of the process. The first step that we have to go to, and this is going to be especially for you because you're ADHD. Do you remember back when you were going through your education, if we were in your specialty, your area of extreme interest and ability, you were laser focused, you were locked in. We stepped outside of that, it was hard to get you to do anything. Sound familiar?
Yes, still does.
Okay. Well, here is how important this is. I'm going to go back to my most successful student ever. Her name is Casey. I want everybody to know I never saw this before, Casey. I will never see this again. This was a one-off edge case.
Okay.
But it's to demonstrate a point. Casey was 10 years old at the end of 5th grade. She turned 11 over the summertime. And she was very interested in Theodore Roosevelt. And she insisted on doing reading first, which I never do. But I said, okay, Casey, we'll show you how to do it. This is the book I gave her. The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. All 900 pages of it. This won the Pulitzer. Yeah, depending on who you ask, this is 10th grade to first year college level. Casey was reading at the 2nd grade level. Okay? So she went up to her room, shut the door for 3 hours a night for 6 months, most of the days during the summertime. At the end of that, you could flip to this random page, point to a random word, and she would tell you the exact dictionary definition. Casey's reading level jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for 15 minutes a week.
Wow.
Yep, but that's not the point. Here's the point.
I was like, okay, so how?
Oh, well, we'll get to that near the end, but the key point here is when we moved to a book she liked, her mom said, what happens if it's something she hates? So I assigned her this little book, my most popular one, Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination, all 1,000 pages. So have you ever been to Disneyland or Disney World?
I have, yes.
You know how when you walk in to Main Street, USA, you start to feel the Disney magic?
Yes.
That's 2 universal themes. Anybody can find the first universal theme in 5 minutes. The second one, I've never had a parent find it. Most of my kids take 1 to 3 years to find it. But then they're reading like a 17-year-old. Casey did it in 3 months. Why am I spending so much time on this? Because I asked Casey, the most motivated kid I ever worked with, when we went from something that you really liked to something you hated, how much did that kill your motivation? She said it was down about 50%. Most normal kids are down 75 to 90%. Okay? So when you're dealing with ADD, ADHD, or dyslexia, the treatment's the same for all three. It's just a amount of severity. If you step outside that speciality, your remediation program is not going to work. So our school system is set up to make us well-rounded before we specialize. Now, remember what happened with me in grad school. I dominated every time I went in because that was my specialty. But outside of that, that's why things aren't working. So during the intervention period, we have to focus on the kid's speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. Number 2, I'm going to ask you this. What is your speciality for you?
My personal is theater production, performance.
Okay. So theater production.
Musical theater, dance.
I'm going to ask you something that's going to kind of shock you.
Okay.
Are you ready for this? When
I'm
you're
ready.
thinking about theater production, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed but with little to no organization? Sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay.
I do know how to organize it, but it's rough. There's no endless ideas and vision.
Yes. So how we fix that is we have to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Okay? That's the secret. Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask you a question which you are more than capable of doing, but I think you would find it difficult doing it this way. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
Imagine you had a new assignment. You answer this question. What effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the 1960s civil rights movement? Can you see for people like us, that would be a difficult question to answer in a paper?
Yeah.
Because it's literally like grabbing fog. We have nothing to connect to. So we have to ask a specific to a general question. We have to start off at a fixed point. What personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? We find that answer. That answer gives us a question, which gives us an answer, which gives us a question, which gives us an answer. We start off at a fixed point, and we slowly spread out.
Mm-hmm.
Would that make it a lot easier for you?
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. It is like grabbing fog, because my first thought is, you start digging into the recesses, retrieving long-term memory files of Martin Luther King. Then I heard you say 60s and 70s. So then boom, civil rights movement starts popping up. Then every name associated with civil rights movement starts coming in. And it's like, it's a never ending slippery slope. So you have to go back, like you said, the compelled to speak. Okay, that's a much narrower scope. It's much more beneficial for me to be able to even have a starting point. Otherwise, you're just overwhelmed.
Right. Okay. So we start off at a specific point and we go out. And what that does is that forces our chaotic brain to organize, and we use writing as a measurable output.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
Then we do word analysis followed by articulation, like I showed you. Now, what effect does this have? People always want an example. So in my book that's coming out in about a month, it's going to be called If You Can Write, You Can Read. The case I use is Kimberly. We met on December 27th of 2024. Kimberly is a homeschooling mom with some college, very religious. She properly taught Reed's four brothers and sisters to read exceptionally well with traditional methods. But a couple weeks before we spoke, she spent $700 and had the state of Ohio test her kids. Reed was 10 years old in fifth grade, reading at the 11th percentile, writing at the 4th percentile. She was ashamed, embarrassed, concerned about her inability to teach her son. So I worked with her for a half an hour a week. She worked with Reed for an hour and a half a week, 3 30-minute sessions. Most parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions, so you can figure out how long this would probably take you for the rest of the school year. And then he was retested, and he had an increase, which I'm not going to tell you because over the summer, Reed's friends came to him and said, Reed, we want you in public school to be with us socially, in class socially. So in beginning of August, call it 8.5 months later, he was tested in a public school, mom's miles away, much better data. Well, if he scored anywhere near like he did in December, he would have been placed in special ed, away from his friends, unhappy kid. But he had an increase. His reading jumped from the 11th percentile to the 64th. His writing jumped from the 4th percentile to the 65th. His grammar jumped to the 97th percentile.
Wow.
I asked Kimberly how Reed was doing in February of 2026. She said he's getting mostly A's and B's. They had a huge family traumatic event, so he hasn't been turning in his English homework, so he's currently at a C+. Once it's turned in, probably a B-. Kimberly did what every parent dreamed of in an hour and a half a week for 8.5 months, not in a private school at $75,000 a year, full time for 4 to 5 years. That's how powerful this is.
Wow. I'm in shock, man. This is amazing. There are so many people that need this.
Well, that was the elementary school kids. But as you said, you teach at you taught high school and college students. So now we're going to move on to the advanced students. And the best way I'd like to explain this, to do advanced paragraphs, is I start off with a movie review because I use universal themes. Just trust me, this will make sense in a moment. So I want you to think about a movie that you love, that everybody has seen, that you think is one of the best ever, that you know intimately. What's that movie?
Well, it's hard because I don't know if everybody's seen it, but for me, it would be Braveheart.
Braveheart, one of the best movies of the 90s. Okay. Did you know that Mel Gibson actually directed that?
I did.
Yes. So that was a phenomenal movie. So now I'm going to ask you a really tough question. So just so everybody knows, you've taught at the university level. All right, you have a master's degree. So you're one of the most educated person as a percentage of the population. So I'm going to ask you a really tough question. For Braveheart, I need you to reduce that movie to a one-word universal theme that best represents the movie.
Epic.
Epic. Okay. Now, just again, you're highly educated. You've taught at the university level. Do you see how long that took you?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're dealing with universal themes, we're going to use that as a focus so we can write much more intelligently. Okay? This requires hard thinking. This is not something we shop out to artificial intelligence. Okay?
Controlled, yeah.
So I want you to imagine back when Braveheart came out. If you read things from the LA Times, the New York Times, the Washington Post, you're talking Stanford educated, Ivy League educated. The reviewers pretty much wrote, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, ruining the movie for you. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Here's how we write a review, not like a child. Okay? We would take the universal theme of epic, and you'd pick out the actors that you were really interested in. How did each one of them deal with that universal theme of epic? How did the director do with the universal theme of epic? How did the screenwriter do with the universal theme of epic? And then you would write your review. And then if people would read it, they could say, I want to see it or I don't. If I want to see it, you have now enhanced their experience because now they know what to look for. But you haven't ruined it for them by telling them what happened like a child. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Here's the problem with that. Epic is such a broad universal theme, you can only paint it in broad strokes and that you can't laser focus. So we have to fix that. So now I'm sorry, but I have to traumatize your audience by bringing you back to high school English and Shakespeare. So just bear with me for a minute, okay?
I'm ready.
So back in any Shakespeare play, we had a hero. The hero wanted to do something associated with one or more universal themes. Then there was an ultimate villain, a person, a concept, or some combination thereto, that tried to prevent the hero from accomplishing their goals. They would start having a conflict in Act 1. It would escalate in Act 2 and resolve in Act 3. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Why am I mentioning Shakespeare? Because when you're trying to communicate in writing, he just was the best one in anybody ever, anytime in the English language. But we need to simplify that process. So what we're going to do is let's go back to Braveheart. We're just going to use that script. Let's say, assume we were studying a film college or high school class. Okay.
Okay.
So what we would do is we'd first of all identify the hero, and then we would write out what the hero wants to do. And this is where I would encourage grown-ups and more advanced students, yes, use AI for this to help you write out what the hero wanted to do. Once you're done with that, for each sentence, you're going to find the most important word, okay? And then you're going to take all the most important words, and then you're going to pick which one is the best most important word. How you're going to do that? This is for your students. You're going to literally type out the most important word, and then go to the Merriam-Webster's online dictionary and type out the definition, the one that you selected. You are not copying and pasting, you're typing. Now, here's one of the biggest revelations you're going to have in this entire discussion. I can hear parents now, my kid won't do it. But I want you to think, as somebody who's an ADHD, this is in your speciality. Let me first explain why you will do it. Remember the front part of the brain I showed you is massively overactive for dyslexics? Starts off with word analysis. I tell the dyslexic, how can you use word analysis if you don't know exactly what the word means? You can't. So I can't teach you to read or write. I just can't do it unless if you know exactly what that means. Okay. We're in your speciality. We're in your area of extreme interest and ability. So then the students do it. You step out of it, they will not. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Explain to people why you would do it inside your speciality and not outside.
Because you've given me something to hyper focus on. I also feel that when it comes to word analysis, it's a manageable task. It's not an overwhelming one. It's point and shoot. So there's confidence in the ability to actually be productive on that task and complete it at any level. I feel like that's a huge part of it. For me personally, it's about the fact that it's something I can hyper focus on because it's a bite-sized piece. One word, definition, type it. One word, definition, type it. Like that's not a huge thing.
Right, but a key point, if we're in something you really care about, you're doing it. What is something you absolutely...
Oh, for me, that one's a no-brainer because it's passion, right? It's something I'm very interested in, so I'm motivated to finish it, and I want to share it because I want other people to like it too because I like it so much.
Yeah, so the key thing is, especially for ADHD, you're in that area, that specific area, the kids are massively motivated. You step outside, it's like a flat tire. You're going nowhere.
Right.
Okay. So
you can hear everything else except for what's happened.
So we go back. You're going to type out the word and the definition. At some point, when you do that enough, I don't know if it's 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, at some point, you're going to know exactly what that word means. And 5 years later, when these kids are taking their SAT or ACT, the verbal section is just a vocabulary test. My kids don't need to remember all these words because they've done it when they were 11 or 12. Okay? So you do that. You find out, you type out the word and definition of each one, and then you pick what is your best, your absolute best, most important word. That is going to be your base universal theme. But we now have the same problem of what we had with your review of Braveheart. It's too broad. So what we do is we then go to the thesaurus and we put that in and we get synonyms. Now, typically you can do 5 synonyms, 10, the whole level, multiple levels. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the synonyms. Let's say you're doing 5 or 10. You're going to type out each word and pick your definition and type it out. And then you're going to try to find the definition that best matches what's in your head. It's never going to be perfect. So you find one that's much better accurate what's in your head. That's your universal theme. Now, because it's much more specific, we can now use that as a lens to laser focus to pick our ultimate villain. I start off with people, and eventually I get to concepts. So now you have your hero, your very specific universal theme, and your ultimate villain. We separate those with plus signs, and we ask, does that sound generally correct? No, add some words so it does. Now, that is you see how that is a more evolved form of word analysis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go
definitely as a writing motivator.
And this is eventually doing this for months. This is why I would go to Casey, because Casey would keep going down multiple levels until she got to garbage words, and the last one was their most important. That's what my super motivated kids would do. And 6 months in, we would go into doing this, and I would say, Casey, thesaurisize that word. She would look at 210 words and come back in less than 10 minutes and say, this is the best one because of this definition. And she already knew all the definitions. And that was the base to launch up her reading skills.
Wow.
Okay. Now we're going to do an advanced form of articulation. So then I go, because give me 3 good reasons, the best reasons you can. For each reason, we're going to simplify that into a one-word universal thing, which you are then going to use to go to the script of Braveheart and find a quote, a one-sentence quote that deals with that simple universal theme at the beginning of the script and one at the end of the script. And we're going to take those 2 quotes and put them together. That's going to be your data for your body paragraph. From those 2 quotes, you're going to form your topic sentence. Now, I'm going to ask you something that almost nobody outside of a PhD candidate understands.
Okay.
All right. Have you ever noticed when you wrote papers in grad school that you had your topic sentence and you had your data, but they never really transitioned very smoothly between the two?
Yeah. I have.
Okay.
I mean,
so
I worked really hard on that, but it was always really hard and wasn't always right.
Okay. Now, I'm going to shock you with a question you probably don't know the answer to. All right. To correct that problem, have you ever thought of applying a warrant to a body paragraph?
No.
Okay. A warrant is from a book called The Craft of Research, which was came out in 1995 and has since sold over 1 million copies to teach PhD candidates how to write their doctoral dissertation. What it does is it says to connect your topic sentence with your data, you use a warrant, which is answering a how and why question. So for your students, you now have their topic sentence. They answer how and why question. Now they got 2 quotes. There are some additional things we do in our paid courses to explain further, but that's the essence of it. And can you see how a university senior professor would look at that and say, oh, that kid's using a warrant. This must be at the college level.
Yes.
Okay?
I mean, because if you're asking a how or what question.
No, how and why.
I keep going back to my focus on Braveheart, because once I started going down that cognitive schema world, I was like, all right, William Wallace, okay, once freedom for Scotland, and then the what, how, all of a sudden those things start to sink in and fit into the sentence that you're describing. So I can certainly see how that feels. It's going to read correctly. It's just going to be better. It's it's easy to construct, but it's right.
Yes. And again, this is just showing how advanced we're doing. This is not meant to be in any way be mean for what you've accomplished. but you've taught at the college
Oh, no, no,
level.
no. I totally understand. And
You,
that's why I like it. I'm like, man, I
yeah,
wish I would have known this a long time ago.
you have a master's degree. You've taught at the college level, and yet this is a writing technique that you haven't been taught. And I teach this to 11 and 12-year-olds. So the reason why I'm saying that, why I'm trying to make this point, is because I think you can see a trajectory where we're really starting to take off. That's not the only thing we do. In the craft of research, it's context, what I just kind of went over with you, a thesis
Right.
statement, problem
Uh-huh.
statement where you're asking a question
Yeah.
that needs to get solved because it matters and you can do it, and then an actual original solution. So we're working with a 10-year-old student. His name is
Okay.
Grayson.
All right.
Grayson is not dyslexic in the least. He's in the 99th percentile for math and science. No neurodiverse. He's just a typical genius 10-year-old.
Got it.
Grayson wants, well, here's how advanced we're taking this. Grayson wants to get his PhD, work for NASA to terraform Mars. Okay.
And
Now,
he's
in order to
10?
do, he's 10. Now,
Wow.
in order to do that, Grayson has to publish in a major publication. Okay. So Grayson is now going through that process that I discussed with you. His father's teaching him. But I also am getting him ready to submit an article to a peer-reviewed publication that just so happens deals exactly with what he wants. And they will accept submissions from junior researchers, which they define as PhD candidates. So what we're doing with Grayson is once he's done with the paragraphs that we discussed, we're going to show him how to come up with a problem statement and a solution. I already know what the hole is that literally needs to get done. And then we're going to show him how to draft out a peer review article and submit it for publication, which will be rejected. Here's the key point. We're then going to connect Grayson with a senior professor in this area, probably when he's 13 or 14, have him go in and say, here's my article that I want to get published that was rejected for all these reasons that probably any PhD candidate can handle. I would like to work with you to get this published, and watch the professor's jaw drop. Because that's what they want. Publication is everything to them. SAT scores,
Mhm.
valedictorians, meaningless in comparison. So Grayson should be ready to do this at 13 or 14, about a decade ahead of time. If it takes
Wow.
him the next 5 years to get published, who cares? He does it once or twice more in grad school, he will be an exceptional candidate to do what he dreams. That's how far
Yeah,
we
no
go.
kidding. That is wild, man. There are so many great I'm reeling thinking about how many students I know I've met in my years working in education system that could have benefited from this exact process at that time. And it feeds back into the mission of what we do here on Offline Expression, which is like, had they been able to harness that or sink their teeth in a little bit at that time, they might have been able to avoid the onslaught of digital warfare they were about to face in their adolescent years
Mm-hmm.
and come out the other side with a foundational piece that was already laid early that could not be touched by that other stuff that literally tries to break things down brick by brick. Man, wow, this is
Yeah, and
really enlightening stuff. I'm excited about it.
just so you know why we're doing that, it's because kids spend all their time on these darn things. Okay. So what I did with Grayson, remember, he's not dyslexic in the least. No neurodiversity. He's just a genius kid. Is I took 3 of the top journal articles in what he wants to do, because the people that are into this, it's very small, but they're very active. And I condensed them down because I pay $200 a month just on one AI service. I belong to all 3, and I condensed it down to the 10th grade reading level, first year college level comprehension. He's 10. That's where he's come. I'm slowly inching it up. All right. He's going through that to learn how to do the basic and the advanced paragraphs. I'm literally showing him how to go through the craft of research. Okay. And I'm not teaching this. His dad is. I meet them once a week. Okay. So we make it simple enough for parents to do this. Why is this so important? Because I think you're seeing this for a lot of college kids. About 40% of the recent college grads are underemployed. Because I want you to think about the artificial intelligence. People know I go on AI podcasts and explain processes, because the day that ChatGPT in December of 2024 said, here's our $200 a month pro account, people would thought this is insane. I bought it that day. I've been using advanced stuff ever since. So a lot of times the college kids come out, there's a task that I need to get done to run my business. I just have AI do it. Or if I will assign it to one of my employees, and my employees have master's degrees or PhD candidates. Okay, I won't hire anybody without a master's degree, because that really teaches you how to master, how to think and learn faster. And we are just so productive with this. But if you know the craft of research, context, problem statement, solutions, I don't care if you know nothing about AI. I had a student who hated AI, came out of college, and their new boss said, we have to use it. He just sat down and said, okay, how do I get the context? I just said, talk to it, type with it, whatever. Then they figured out context. Then they figured out problem statement. Then they figured out solution, because I taught them this in high school and they practiced in college for 4 years. Now they're so productive. The boss asked, well, how are you doing this? And he just explained. Within weeks, that same ex-student is now teaching their peers AI with knowing nothing about it.
Wow.
The solution to how to do this came out in a book that came out in 1995.
What's it called?
It's called The Craft of Research. How do I know that?
Well,
because
that's the one.
Yes. Well, here's why I keep harping on this thing. When I presented in New York City in 2006 at the International Dyslexia Association's Manhattan branch, one of the biggest conferences in dyslexia in the year, the professors came to me and said, you had 2 students in the last year that went from middle school level to 70th percentile approximately of writing of entering grad students. We don't care. We want the craft of research. And I was like, you want me to teach dyslexic high school kids to do PhD level stuff in high school? Yes, before they come to college. I was like, okay. And then I had to go, and the normal teacher said, this is brilliant. Does this work for normal kids? I said, no. And they said, we'll come back when it does. I came back 8 years later.
Now it does. So there.
Because I had to figure it out for those. I had to do those 2 things. Oh, and then, by the way, I had to figure out how to teach it to parents so they could do it in 10 to 15-minute segments.
Right. And I mean, what a great idea, because there's between, I mean, I'm going a little bit on the psychology side in a different direction, but between attachment theory and, parenting styles, authoritarian, authoritative versus permissive, and all these things, there is, and then the digital onslaught that we talked about earlier, where parents too, everybody's fallen victim to the world of the digital stuff in some way, shape, or form. It's just we were lucky enough to not be raised in our childhood on it, so it's not something we've been conditioned to need all the time. We can put it down for 6 hours and be fine, but giving them something that is hopeful, helpful, connecting, face-to-face, educational, and confidence building for both the parents helping their children, because oftentimes it's a feeling of helplessness of like, what do? I don't know what to do, is a common phrase from parents. And then the kid feeling so much attention and love from that parent, plus they're getting something out of it. It's 200-fold. You get the end result, the literal result of why you created this, but there is so much more going on in that process with the parent doing the teaching.
Yeah, and it's also, how expensive it is to live now. Tutors out where you are to do dyslexia are $150 an hour or more, and you need them for years.
Oh yeah, easily. So how do we get this, Russell? Like, how do we share this, yell it from the mountaintops, get kids involved and getting on board with your program.
The first thing, we're having a book that's coming out. It's called If You Write, You Can Read. That'll be out in the next month or two. We're famous last words from any author, the final edits.
Yeah,
All
you know
right.
what's so funny? My book's coming out next month also, and I just submitted it from my revisions process to my copy editor, and so I'm right in that place as well. It's so ironic that we're going through that at the same time. So I'm with you on that.
Oh, yeah, but you're spending how much to get your book out?
More than I should.
Well, let me tell
I
you
don't
what
know,
I
10
did.
grand.
Yeah, I'm not doing anywhere close to that. First thing I did is I wrote my book with AI. This was back when it was 03 Pro. Then I sent it, I went to Fiverr and I was looking for a Fiverr Choice person that I could afford. Fiverr Choice is their best people. And it was a mom down in North Carolina. And I sent her the book. She rewrote it completely. Looked like nothing I gave her, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay? So then I just didn't feel like it felt the sophistication that I needed because what I do appears simple, but it's actually complicated. So then I went and I had, I don't know if she was a med student or a resident, some doctorish something or other, another Fiverr Choice person, and she rewrote it. Then I went and in New York State, we tried to redo our entire elementary school education. And Evelyn Whitebay was one of the 2 or 3 teachers who was on the dyslexia task force chosen by the state. And then I gave it to her and she rewrote it. Okay. And then we've been going through some editors since that point. And we're doing a final one with another podcaster. She's published several books. In exchange for one of my curriculum, she's now editing things for me. And then she's done 2 TEDx talks. Then she's going to help me get on a TEDx stage. So that's our last piece. So we're going to start it off on Kindle. All right. And we're going to sell it for 99 cents because we need to get the reviews. But now this is why I've done all these podcasts. This is my 217th podcast. I have 187 5-star reviews on Podmatch where we met.
Mm-hmm.
Over 150 of those people want me back once the book comes out. So when somebody approached me and said, I can set up a media tour for you to go on podcasts, I said, well, I'm already going to go back on over 150 of them. They're like, I've never seen anybody do this. And I said, yes, I've been planning this for about a year.
Look at you go, man. Well, we want to join that list of podcasts that want you back after the book comes out. And I cannot wait to read this thing, man. I'm excited. I have a lot of authors on our show, and I always want to get their book, and I do get the book. And then there's times busyness happens and I can get caught up and, my brain already, with all the things I'm already doing and the best intentions. And I don't finish them all, even when I want to, really, really want to. But I feel so connected to this topic and the way that you laid it out. And, my son he just turned 11 and, he's got,
is he dyslexic or ADHD?
Oh, he's ADHD for sure. We're actually going through the testing process right now just to make it official for our own good. But I mean, I know one when I see one, and he's my son. And so, I would never say that to somebody else's child. You know what I mean? There's rules and all that jazz. I could talk to parents that I know and stuff. But all of that is to say, I think that he is, and please understand I'm being as objective as I can. I can get 10 other people to sit here and say it to you. The kid is gifted. There's something there that is extremely special that has been there since he was 3. He will sit down and write his own music, his own song with lyrics and tune and hook. He gets different instruments that he just likes the sound of, and he plays with those. And not in and I mean, I hate this. This is not to sound disrespectful in any way, but just for clarification in this short period of time, not in an I'm on the spectrum way. You know what I mean? Not in a I'm into this music. Just he can have 3 things going at once. He could be watching a show and then building something with his Legos and singing something, and then every now and then he'll reach over and press this music thing on a instrument, and, like that, and then go over here, and then he'll set up the videos so he can record himself doing claymation while creating. Like, he just never stops. And
Yes, and that is the
needs this stuff.
benefit. Yeah, and that speciality is what makes this. It's a huge advantage. Now, what you have being ADHD and not dyslexic is you don't have the reading, as bad of the reading writing issues that I have, but the creative aspect you have. Okay, so let me ask you this: does your son have any issues with reading or writing at all?
He is yes and no. He's in 5th grade, and so he gets really high test scores, but speaking, no problem. Great. Boom. Communicate. All that passion comes out in the words and the facial expression, but he vocally says, I hate reading. And like you said earlier, if it's not something you're motivated to do, there goes 90% of your drive to do it and your then ability to get better at it and all that kind of stuff. So I see a lot of that in him. We are very different in that regard. I grew up in the 80s and 90s where we didn't have the ability to go and look at a screen most of the hours of the day, you know? And so if you didn't read a book or go outside or play with your own action figures or something, the list was over. You know what I mean? So I fell in love with reading because my imagination can go so far. Every now and then he'll pick a book that he really likes, can't put it down. And, you know, you see this with kids, and anybody understands that feeling. And then sometimes you get a book and it takes you a while to finish it, or you get to 20 pages in, and you just you keep trying to get started. But because of that, I feel like he's going into middle school and it could start to be a problem. Psychologically, you start convincing yourself, I'm not good at that because I don't like it. And it feeds itself, the snake eating its tail. And I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, so we have some courses online that we're just putting up that we can show you how to go through. And here's how it would work. I have everybody go through everything, even if they don't really need it, just to make sure I have the base down. And you just take him through that. And then, because what you want to do is, a lot of kids with ADHD are very bright. You're in California. So I kind of dissuade people from going to Stanford, but you'd want to give him the chance to go to Berkeley or UCLA, which are almost just as good, but at a fraction of the price. I say, wait, if you want this, go private, do it for a master's degree. All right. Undergrad, just go to the best school you can. But you know how competitive they are. So what parents generally want to do is give their kids an option. Do you want the option to go to Berkeley? Do you want the option to go to a community college and become an electrician, a auto mechanic, you know, whatever? What do you want to do? Do you want to just start your own business? Okay. You want to give them as many options as possible so they're not constrained. So that same process that we're taking Grayson through, I can show you how to take your son through. And believe me, you get through the craft of research, a lot more competitive than the Valedictorian.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. And what website is that? Tell us where we should
go.
We're
on. If you go to school, SKOOL.com, that's the reason why we picked is because it's a traditional learning site, but also it has a big social media. It's kind of like Facebook and a learning site put on together without the ads. And for each of our classes, we have a qualified expert who, it's not a video course, just that, who comes on every week for 60 to 90 minutes to actually answer your questions. So for our parents, her name is Angela. Angela is a certified elementary school teacher with a master's degree and 10 years of experience from the state of Texas. When her daughter was born, she retired to become a homeschooling mom, and she's brought her son, August, through this process. So she's been there both on the teaching side and on the other side. And as far as professionals, we have Jackie who teaches this. Jackie is her day job is an adjunct professor in curriculum design for Grand Canyon University, where she teaches graduate students how to do curriculum design. And she's the one that takes care of our professionals.
Awesome, man.
And we're there it's a month to month. You stay as long as you need, and we show you exactly what to do.
So if I go to school.com, SKOOL.com, what am I searching for?
You just dyslexia classes.
Dyslexia classes, and I'll see yours. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you, man.
Now remember,
I
they're
really
two very different ones. One is for parents who are like accountants, doctors, nurses, anything but educators. And then we have one for professional educators. They're two distinct different ones. They're obviously for the ones with teachers that moves at a much more rapid pace because this is what you do for a living.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Oh, well, Russell, man, I really appreciate your time today, man. I'm so excited to see how this all plays out. And we definitely want to have you back on after your book comes out. So put us on that list of podcasts, because that is going to be a huge for us. And I'm going to reach out to you privately after this so we could talk a little bit more about this. I want to know more. And I just recently founded a nonprofit that is designed specifically to help underserved and disadvantaged youth who need certain things, but their parents maybe don't know how to get it. Maybe they're disenfranchised, or also maybe, just don't have accessibility to these sorts of things that I think maybe the nonprofit could benefit and benefit these families and get in there and supplement some of the costs so they could have accessibility to this stuff. So we'll talk more about that as well.
Yeah, just what city are you by in California?
So the city we live in is King City, but we're near Monterey, the Monterey Bay, where a lot of people know it.
Because I just literally trained in California over 40 people in non-for-profits in California how to do what we talked about today.
Oh, outstanding, man. We'll have to talk about that process too.
These are 40 volunteers, and yeah. You
say you only hire people with master's degrees? Hey, we're going to be talking a lot, it sounds like, Russell.
Personally, yeah, because honestly, with a bachelor's degree just teaches you how to learn somewhat. With a master's degree, think about it when you were a teacher. You had a whole bunch of different students, and they had to be at some place at the end of the year, and they all had trouble getting there for some reason, and yet year in, year out, you got it done through the vast majority of cases.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a master's degree. That's the experience. So then when I take people with that experience and I say, oh, you now have to go and learn internet marketing and apply it to this. Here's 70 hours of courses on Udemy. They just go and do it.
That's right. Because that's one of the best quotes I ever saw on LinkedIn that I think it's lost on some people, but it is the definition of what you're talking about. The master's degree world is just because I can do something in 15 minutes that might take somebody else 2 hours, it doesn't mean that I should not get the 2 hours worth of pay. You're going to get 40 hours worth of work in 20 out of somebody's with a master's degree, and that goes it goes farther for your buck.
Well, and let me give you another example of just where AI is taking some companies. There's a sales company that used to they would pay 80, 90 grand a year for the sales guy to produce $300,000 to $500,000 in sales. Now they brought in AI, which is taking care of all the drudgery. They're at the bleeding edge of it. Now the same guy's doing 3 to 5 million in sales, and he's getting paid 300,000. So literally, it 5-10x what you do. I don't use the agents as much as other people because I can tell you, for example, when I'm reviewing documents, because it changes every week. When I'm reviewing documents now that we put up on school, I work primarily with Opus 4.6. All right. Then I have it tested. This is after Jackie sends it to me or Angela sends me something. Then I will have Google 3.1 Pro review it. After I review it that with a couple of new starts, then I just moved it over to ChatGPT 5.1 Thinking Extended. And now instead of, 4 things or 8 things, I get 3,000 words of what needs to get corrected.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
And then I
love that you're leaning in. You got to lean in, man. Yeah. There are things that technology is designed to help us with. And of course, there's always going to be controversy about different things, especially AI, which I completely understand. Mm-hmm. But I do feel that most of that is fear-based rhetoric at this point. And there is so many wonderful benefits to using it. And I also encourage my students, I'm going to be really honest. I tell my psych students all the time, look, if you are scared about writing your essay on your exam, use ChatGPT on your own time. You still have to prompt it in order to get what you need out of it. Prompt it with everything that you need, you want to try to say in whatever fragmented way. See what it spits out. Read that. See if that feels right to you. Then turn around and try to write it. See if you can copy it, write it into a piece of paper. Then now go in and add your own words. Once you've read that a few times and you understand the concept, you've learned it. And that is it. That's the real point here. Then when you come in to take the exam, you still have to sit there and write the essay, but you've given yourself so much added firepower before you walk in the door that AI helped you with, but you still had to do. So to me, that is still a major part of a learning thing that can benefit you. I don't think that's cheating. I don't think that's now. If I let them just turn that in, like copy, paste, and submit it, but that's not how I do it. Just because I want to CYA, right? But I think there's tons of great benefits to AI, especially for students.
Right, but I want you to think about what I just showed you when we went through that advanced paragraph. You can show your work with like math. You had to go and find those quotes. You had to think through the whole thing. You're not asking AI to do it. And plus, but for me, as a dyslexic, I'm having professionals send me what they have. I'm enhancing this, and then I send it back to them. These are human professionals with master's degrees.
Right.
They then look through it and make the final decisions.
Right.
Okay?
So by the time you get to the end, it's not AI anymore.
No, what AI does is it allows us to edit and get to the first draft a lot faster. But then you always need that senior human.
And that's the hardest part, starting.
Yes.
Starting
as
is the hardest
dyslexic,
part.
I'm not that person. Yeah.
Oh, me too, man. When I was in my master's program, and I know we got to go, so we could talk forever, it sounds like. But when I was in my master's program, I probably spent 2 hours sitting there figuring out how to even start, and then 2 hours writing the other 7 pages. You know what I mean? It's like insane how hard it is to get going because there's all these other pieces that go into it. AI gives you this huge cannon to the launching point to get started, and then you feel like you hit the ground running and you're productive.
Yes, but if you want to do writing, use Claude Opus 4.6. Don't use ChatGPT. It doesn't know how to write. It knows how to think.
All right, man. I'm gonna have to let you go, but I'm gonna email you after this so we can chat more about it. Thank you so much, Russell, for joining us, and I look forward to your book.
Thanks a lot.
Talk soon.